So the new Indiana Jones game is coming out. I think the big question that we are all wondering is if this game is going to end up being really good. We all want a good to great game rather than having something that sucks or is disappointing. How the AAA industry is so far, it can be very hit and miss if a big title is really going to land. Then when you factor in the usage of a legacy IP, my concern for the project, honestly most projects that sort of have this stuff and maybe some of that baggage can make me concerned even more. Mainly this points to the inability for people who have the keys to these properties just to not seem to respect them, or in other cases not even understand them. When this happens, we get movies, TV shows, and yes, games that feel like they are wearing the skin of something we used to love, and would honestly love to continue loving it in a new form with them. And yet the property just doesn't seem to be in line with what it was before. It's less of the franchise growing, or anything like that, but rather feeling like it's stagnant, or worse, disrespecting the franchise, story, and characters. Again, like I said, we want it to be good. I would even say that from the gameplay we have seen, it definitely has the potential, but will it be more in line with the last Indiana Jones film, and be a waste of everyone's time? Or will this be more like what Teyon managed to do with Terminator and RoboCop? The first big red flag I remember with this game was the use of the game designers talking about how Indiana Jones needs to be made, or made with the modern audience in mind. I am sorry, but who is this modern audience? And why do you feel the need to cater to them for so much of our releases? Why do you need to make something for this audience, for a property that is a legacy IP? Now this might just be current game making speak nonsense, but I think the better way to word it, or the better way to go about it while making the game, would be to make an Indiana Jones game for fans of the films. That is your audience, indie fans. Now sure, you'll get some new people in there and all of that too, but the core group of people you should be catering to, and who you should be making the game for, would be those film fans. And in this case, Indiana Jones fans for an older IP like this, it's going to be older gamers as well. So when a developer talks about the modern audience stuff, for many of us we start to think that those writers are going to implement story elements that either disrespects our heroes or adds in modern nonsense to sort of current day the game. Like I shouldn't go into an indie game and they are discussing pronouns or gender identity and all of that. I really hope that stuff is not in the game. I haven't seen any indication of it yet. But again, from all of the bad experiences, especially in the AAA industry, as it pertains to that phrase of the modern audience, it has usually led to something that really doesn't respect the fans or the legacy of those films with this game. One of the developers of Machine Games was interviewed on The Great Circle, and the topic of indie and guns came up. Mechanically, I think it is kind of interesting and cool that in what they are trying to do, they are not focusing on just guns. While the gunplay will still be there, the game is still trying to push it more as being one of your tools to complete an encounter or situation, with even the whip being pushed more upon the player. The developer said that having a lot of gunplay would not be true to the character. Again, I try to give them credit to try to have Indy using all of his tools. He should get into a fistfight, use his whip, and shoot his gun. So this game should be more than a first-person shooter, that I agree on. But the gunplay comments had me a bit concerned as it relates to Indiana Jones's characterization. Some of the best moments in the films are with the use of Indy and guns. The first film had that awesome shootout, and then the famous part with him shooting the swordsman. In the Temple of Doom, there is a gunfight right out of the gate. And then in The Last Crusade, there's a really cool part where he kills multiple guys with one bullet. Then going back to Raiders, at the end of the film, he threatens a group with a rocket launcher too. There's a lot of gun usage in the films. Now yes, it isn't the only part of his character and the action that he's in, but it is a part of Indy, and I am hoping that this isn't a red flag that they just don't understand the character. Again, these are concerns. They may knock it out of the park. I do like that there seems to be some improvised nature to the melee, with you being able to pick up weapons and objects and use them in fistfights. Again, something that Indy would do. Plus, add stealth options to this, and this overall creates some enjoyable replay for the player as well. This is something we'll know a lot more once we can dive into the game too. Oddly enough, while the modern audience thing does have me concerned here, something else that is pretty big that also has me worried is the past history of Machine Games. Now if you ask me how I felt about them after they made Wolfenstein: The New Order and The Old Blood, I would be like, this is one of my favorite new studios. I absolutely love those games. Then Wolfenstein 2 came out, and I still did enjoy it, but it was not up to the quality of the first title. It had strong elements there, but there were also parts where you were sort of scratching your head as to why they went in that direction. I don't think it's a bad game, but it wasn't as good as it could have been. So even after a step down like that, I would still be awaiting their next title. Then Wolfenstein Youngbloods came out. This was a continued step down for the studio, a much bigger one. It wasn't as good as any of their prior games. It also featured those two horribly annoying twin girls that were more insufferable than anything else. There were gameplay elements that hurt the title as well. Shockingly, I still had some fun with it, but overall it was a mess, and a lot of the story stuff was just dumb. The big question with the Youngblood game is that it was co-made by Machine Games and Arcane. It's rumored that Arcane was the main group behind that game. In that case, it would be more of a hit against Arcane than Machine, but nothing was really definitive on who was the main force behind that, and either way, Machine Games' last two games were not their best. So now we're at Indiana Jones. This needs to be good, and honestly, it needs to be great. With the name and legacy behind this character, we need a great game. We need a real hit. Plus, I would say that Machine Games needs that as well, to deliver on respecting the legacy, while also being able to show that they still have it. I am very cautious about this title. We have not seen a lot of respect thrown indies' way lately, especially after that god-awful last film. And now we have a studio that has made great games, but their last two games were not their best. Then factoring in some developers talking about the modern audience, and then my worries of any modern day nonsense being thrown in, along with writers maybe getting the characterization right or wrong. All of these are justified concerns. I do not want this game to suck. I especially do not want this to be a Dragon Age situation. I want it to be a great game. I miss linear treasure hunting games, and honestly having just good fun single player indie adventure sounds like a really good concept. Will Machine Games be able to deliver? Only time will tell, and I think we will know better later this week. But now I hand this all off to you. What do you think about this new indie game? Will it be able to deliver? Do you have some of my same concerns? Maybe you have some others. Let me know in the comments down below. If you're interested in supporting the channel, please check out my Patreon page. For just $1 a month, you can help to keep this channel going strong, and this allows me to be able to do more for my awesome audience. Please check out the links in the description and pinned comment for ways to support the channel. And most of all, thank you very much for watching.